and we could bring games for the kids, and thanks to my mom bringing a bunch of pickleball paddles and a pickleball net and pickleball balls, the kids got to learn how to play pickleball. So that was cool. They learned pickleball, they learned volleyball, we did disc golf with, improvising with a 40-liter jug of water and Oliver's Frisbee, and a lot of other fun games. But overall, it was really awesome to see the kids' confidence soar, the ones that had been attending summer camp every day throughout the week. They just became a lot more confident in themselves and in their abilities to play the sports, because a lot of times the girls had never even played some of these sports. They'd never been given an opportunity to use their body in that way and learn the rules of these sports. So some high highs. It's really hard to talk about the high highs because there are just so many, but some here that I would love to share with you guys. For one, is just being, as a foreigner, being accepted into a community where they don't have to accept an American, but they did, and I was able to be part of them and live as one of them. And this is my family in the top left-hand corner. It's Mama Chacha, it's her birthday, and her great-granddaughters, and one of her daughters. And the photo below that is my neighbor Delma. She's my good pal. A lot of my pals were over the age of 60. It was awesome. Me and Delma share a birthday, April 25th. And in that picture, she's just giggling her head off. But really the community that you build there is really something special. In the middle picture, I have some kids around a lemonade stand. So one of the fun things that I love to do in my off time was teach the kids how to be an entrepreneur and open their own lemonade stand. So it was really cool to see their confidence grow and realize their self-efficacy and their self-capabilities of who they are as kids, that they can actually go out there on the street and make money. The one little girl, she would always do the lemonade stand in her rollers, and she would put a plastic bag over her rollers like she was at the spa. But she was working, and she'd work hard. That was my friend Yoanelli's. But the kids loved doing the lemonade stands, and after every lemonade stand, they split up the money. Unfortunately, sometimes the mom would take the majority of the money, but at least they could see that one day they can keep it. But yeah, it was just really cool for them to see their own capabilities and abilities. In the photo to the left, another high is just like the small moments when I felt so much love and joy and acceptance. This is on my birthday. I had no idea that the whole school would know it was my birthday, but of course the whole school knew it was my birthday. And these girls did a little, with very little monetary things to give, they created a cardboard box and they filled it with beautiful flowers from the tree outside and then taped their snacks into the box. So they taped some Takis and some Halls and this really nasty piece of bread. And they did a procession into my classroom singing happy birthday. It was so special. And then the year before, the whole school made me breakfast. They really are so good at making you feel special and, the things that really matter, which are relationships. Oh, one more high. As a literacy promoter, one of the girls who I worked with a lot, her name was Jelena, and she had a lot of learning disabilities, but they were undiagnosed and there was no one else there to help her, but she had a lot of memory problems. And I worked with her for my 2 years, and I started working with her and she didn't even know the difference between a letter and a star. And by the time she left, she could read. And the gleam in her eyes, she was so proud of herself, and it was just like such a beautiful sight to see. Now the lows. The low lows. The lows, they got pretty low. A lot of the lows though had to do with their reality, so it's always important to put that into perspective. So their reality is climate, their reality is water, so doing laundry. Laundry was a full day activity. You could not plan anything else for laundry day because you'd be so physically exhausted after. And so you put the clothes in a little washer thing outside, it zooms it around, and then you wring it out. Sheets are very heavy to wring. Wring it out, put it in a bucket, you're wringing that out, putting it in another bucket, and then you're hanging it out in the front yard to dry. But remember, we're in the Dominican Republic and it rains a lot. So then you're running to get the laundry that is hanging to dry because rain is coming, and you're playing this fun game of running in and out with stacks of laundry. So finally, I put the lines inside and I solved my own problems. So from then on, all my laundry was going in my living room. So you can see the photo of my laundry hanging up in the living room. But it was literally backbreaking work, and these women are doing, men don't do laundry in that machismo culture. But these women are doing laundry until they can't do laundry anymore. So Mama Chacha at 76 is doing a full day of laundry. They're some of the strongest women I have ever seen, physically, mentally, emotionally, everything. So yeah, another low is definitely the sometimes the school. Working in a broken system was very difficult. Their education system is very different than ours. They don't really teach literacy. They kind of put a paragraph on the board and instruct the kids to copy it and expect that one day they'll just pick it up. So when you go in and you see that, it's kind of like where to begin when that's just like their system overall. And a lot of cultural things, like the teacher meeting would go for about 2.5 hours every morning, and the kids would be just running amok. And then it'd be time for recess, but we gotta make sure the kids have actual recess as well. So a lot of those cultural things were really tough. The middle picture is me just dripping sweat at school, trying to keep my cool. And then the last picture is sometimes it was a matter of kids being kids, but sometimes it was the fact that the kids were never taught some of these things, so they were never taught to not fight and hit and be aggressive and yell, etc. So in the last picture, sometimes you can see it's all the kids at the window. And sometimes I would just have to lock my door and sit and breathe in my classroom, and they'd stare at me from the window, and they'd pound on my door, and they're wondering why on earth I would ever be alone in there, and why can they not come play with me? But yeah. So some memorable moments. So I'll start with a picture of my friend Robert. So this was my little buddy when I lived with my host family for the first 4 months. He was my neighbor down the road. So every day he walked to school with me. He was a very rambunctious, special kid. If he was hot, he'd just take his shirt right off. He was really full of life. And he really was the quintessential example of the generous heart of a Dominican. So walking to school one day, his mom gives him a couple pesos to get a snack, and he buys 2 mints, one for him and one for me. And I was just so touched that early on, he could share his only 2 pesos with me. The photo over was a very memorable moment, one of the highlights of my Peace Corps service. And in the last week of service, my friend Paige, another Peace Corps volunteer, and I were able to last minute scramble together this whole plan of bringing our favorite students. So a teacher always lies when she says she doesn't have favorite students. I definitely have favorite students. We were able to bring our favorite students to the U17 Women's FIFA World Cup. It was the Dominican versus Nigeria, and it was the under 17 game in Santo Domingo. So we had to organize transportation, we had to get permission slips from parents, and this was all happening probably in like 24 hours. So these kids, Jelena, the one on the far left, this was her fourth time ever even in a moving vehicle. So if you can imagine the excitement of a moving vehicle, much less a stadium. Some of these kids who didn't have TVs didn't even know what a stadium was. So seeing it for the first time through their eyes was so special. We're walking up to the stadium and they're like, what are all these people? Like, where are they going? I'm like, they're going to watch the game, just like you. We're going to a game. And their eyes, when they saw a lit up stadium and fans and excitement and a game, they were so enthralled by the soccer game. It was so cool. And for them to be able to cheer on their own team of the Dominican Republic versus Nigeria, it was a very, very special night. And they got back at like 2 in the morning. In terms of permission slips, Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting, the idea of permission slips when the parents can't read. So I'm waiting for a permission slip, and Jelena says, no, but my mom doesn't know how to read, so can you sign? And I'm like, okay. And it was so special and trusting that the parents trusted me so much to take their kid all the way to Santo Domingo, some places where they had never even been, and know that I would return the kid safely. So very special. And some takeaways, overall, just a lot of gratitude for the experience, but also gratitude for my own country. I have a picture of the bathroom there at my school because the bathroom for a long time was a hazard. There was not water, so the poop would just pile up, and it was a mosquito-infested area, and it was just horrible if you had to go to the bathroom at school. But thanks to some donations from some grandparents and my parents, we were able to get these we were able to get these big buckets into the bathroom where it stored some water, so that way when there wasn't water, you could bucket flush. So creating a more cleanly environment. But yeah, I feel like in America we don't really think about going into the bathroom, and I'm so grateful that there's toilet paper, and I'm grateful that there's water and soap, but definitely something to take away, just overall gratitude. The community there was so special, and they really prioritize relationships and that relationship with your neighbor. A normal daily thing is just face-to-face check-in. You're sitting down for however long, 30 minutes, 2 hours, but that sense of community, everyone's always helping each other out. That's a picture of me and my neighbors right there, and they really cared for me throughout my 2 years, always doing work around my house that I didn't ask them to do. They're really good neighbors. And just being accepted overall, and having a place to call home, in terms of the community in general. Perspective, a Dominicanism that everyone would always say is "si Dios quiere." So if I was saying goodbye to my coworkers at school, I'd say bye, see you tomorrow, and they'd say "si Dios quiere," which is if God wants. So no matter your religious beliefs, the Dominicans really have it nailed to the point that we really don't know if we're going to see each other tomorrow. But at the end of the day, it's all we really have is the present moment. And peace, I felt like throughout my whole Peace Corps journey, no pun intended, Peace Corps, but trying to find inner peace and peace with the world. Yeah. And so I was once thanked for my openness to live like the majority of the world, but today I want to thank you guys for your openness to open your community to me, and open your hearts and your minds to hear me talk and share my story, and also share the story of the Dominican people. So thank you.